Hey, everybody, welcome back to the RGR Football channel on YouTube. My name is Daniel Harms. Today, we are going to talk about my top 10 offensive tackle list for this 2021 draft class. Obviously, you can still see we're here down behind the couches behind me. As soon as I get my desk in, the entire new film lab is going to be set up. It's going to be everything that I've hoped for in this process. So bear with me while we get this whole situation figured out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into my top 10 offensive tackle prospect list. With no surprise, really should be anyone watching, seeing anything should know that Penei Sewell is the number one tackle in this class. We're not going to spend too much time on the top two guys, just because I think we all know one and two, at least for the most part, is going to be out of the Chiefs' reach. But Penei Sewell obviously came into Oregon young, 19, 18, 17-year-old, comes right in, playing at like 330, 320, puts on even more weight. He's played at 350 his last year at Oregon. The guy is an absolute animal athlete. He can do anything you want him to do in terms of his pass sets, 45, jump. He can do vertical. He can do it all, and he does it all efficiently and with almost no effort at all. Has great handwork. Yeah, he's going to get beat from time to time, but the guy's probably one of the only blue chip prospect guys in this draft in terms of I think he's going to come in and be an immediate impact starter in terms of top 10, top 15 at his position in the league from the start. That's high praise, obviously, but he's going to rival. I think he's going to be one of the best to come out in the last 5 years. I don't think he's going to be at the level of Tristan Wirfs. Nobody really could be. He was one of the best tackles of football last year as a rookie. So I apply this same thought process to Sewell because I think he's extremely rare. The ability to get into all of his sets, move people in the run game, be a true finisher in the run game as well as be aggressive and play very, very aggressive in pass protection too. I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to go number 5 to the Bengals, and they shouldn't even consider it. They should just send it in. So he is my number one my number one tackle for this draft class. And number 2 is Raeshawn Slater, another guy who, again, is going to be well out of the Chiefs' reach. Speaking of reach, the biggest thing that people try to push at Penei Sewell and Raeshawn Slater is the arm length, something that's been talked about quite widely over the last week and a half to 2 weeks on draft Twitter, if you follow that conversation. A lot of people want to push these kind of prospects with shorter arms into immediately playing guard. Now, Raeshawn Slater does have shorter arms, but he has some of the best footwork and some of the best handwork and hand usage in this class. He's going to be not just productive at the next level. I do think that he's going to be an advanced tackle and in the NFL. I think that he's going to be more than capable of doing everything you need him to do, and being a top tackle in this class in a few years and in the NFL. The big thing for me with these top guys and some of the arm length questions is, are we going to start seeing kind of a switch in how we talk about offensive tackle play? A lot of times you want length to be able to keep athletes at bay from defensive end position. Raeshawn Slater doesn't have that, but what they do have is the ability to recover and use their athleticism to their advantage and move with their footwork inside and outside and keep guys in front of them that way. Not necessarily have to use their arms to keep everyone at length while then having their feet catch up. They can use their lower half and keep it in front of them as well. So we're starting to see more athletes at the offensive line position, especially at the tackle position, try to rival some of the athletes that are playing defensive end. So we might be seeing a shift in the way the offensive tackle is really played going into the future. You don't necessarily have to have the super long arms to be able to combat some of these top tier athletes at defensive end, but we're going to see. Like I said, Raeshawn Slater is my number 2. I do believe that he's going to be a plug and play starter in the NFL, and he's probably going to go top 15. I think he's going to go probably around 14, 15-ish. It would make sense to me. So he's my number 2 tackle in this class. Now, this is where we're going to get to some of the tackles that may start to slide around to where the Chiefs have an ability to get them. The next guy I'm not so sure about, but we'll talk about when we get there. Well, my number 3 tackle is Christiandarasoff. He's been falling down boards lately because of lack of a consistent motor throughout the game. He tends to not finish plays, not finish to the ground when he has the opportunity to. let's just get this straight. He has the athletic profile, the build, the strength, and everything needed, length, to be a top tier tackle in the NFL. He's built to be a top tier tackle in the NFL. What it's going to come down to for me is it's going to be right here in between the ears. If he gets everything right, starts to be in the film room more often, starts to really develop that want to dominate his competition and be the best. That's what's going to drive him to be one of the best tackles in the NFL at someday. So that's the biggest question for just about everybody when it comes to Darasaw. And that might stick in GM's minds because, like I said, he's got the length, he's got the athleticism, he's more than powerful enough to dominate competition. And that's something that did stick out in his film, is that he has the ability to do that, all of everything I just said. He just doesn't do it at a consistent enough level that it makes you question what's going on, whether he has a commitment issue to football, or whether he's kind of just out there because he can. Personally, it might just be because he's played at Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech's not a very competitive school anymore in terms of football, the collegiate football level. He might get bored with, you know, playing certain times. So it's all going to be in between the ears for me. I do think getting him into the NFL and raising that competition level and that competence level of everyone around him will help fluidity and help him get in the mental aspect and mindset to really be a top tier tackle. But yeah, he's got it all. I really love his athletic profile. If he starts to slide to the Chiefs, starts to slide down boards, 15, 20. If he hits 20, that's the sweet spot where the Chiefs can trade up and get him. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them attempt to do that. So he's my third tackle in this class. And now this is where a lot of Chiefs fans have really centered their mock drafts around. Tevin Jenkins. No, that doesn't look like Tevin Jenkins. That doesn't look like one of the most physical and physically dominating tackles in this class. Look at him. He's just like, what's going on? Like, you wouldn't even think that he's this kind of superimposing tackle. Yeah, he played right tackle. Okay. So let's just take a little tangent really quick. There's going to be guys in my top 10 that I think that the Chiefs can draft to play left tackle that did play right tackle. If you guys saw it on Twitter, Mitch Schwartz also is of my opinion that it's not as hard anymore to go from right tackle to play left tackle. The athletes, not only on the defensive side that you're playing against, but the athletes at tackle themselves, the footwork and the fluidity with their hips, the way they can come inside and go outside and they use their hands, the footwork matches. It's not as hard anymore to switch from one side to the other. So guys like Tevin Jenkins, in my opinion, can play right tackle in the NFL. They can play left tackle in the NFL. It might take a little bit of mental processing and getting comfortable instead of dropping with your right foot, dropping with your left foot, and that catch drive technique, which is just pushing off with your inside foot, right foot for left tackles, left foot for right tackles, and getting into that catch position with your outside foot. It's going to be the biggest part about transitioning to the NFL, especially not only figuring that out, being comfortable enough to do it in an NFL game against guys that are just as fast and quick as you are. So the transition process is going to be the biggest thing. I do believe Tevin Jenkins and the guys in these top 10 and much more, not just inside the top 10, can also switch from right to left. Those level of athletes really dictates for me that they can do it. So Tevin Jenkins is definitely a guy I think is on the Chiefs board. He's scheme diverse in my opinion. I think you can play him in a power, you can play him in his zone. He's a people mover on the offensive line. He has the best finishing mentality of the top four guys that we just talked about. He's just wants to take you to the ground. And again, just look at the face. You would never expect this guy to be one of the most physically imposing tackles, but he is. I personally think that the Raiders have him pegged for their number one pick. So I don't see the Chiefs trading up to that spot. I don't think that they're going to be able to trade up in front of the Raiders or with them. So I think that he's going to be there, and it would be nice to get him in a Chiefs uniform, but I don't see it personally. If he starts to fall behind the Raiders, that's when we can have a discussion. So he's my number 4 tackle in this class. Number 5 is definitely one of the guys that I've been more high on lately. I am Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame, left tackle. I do believe he's a plug and play left tackle in the NFL. Again, shorter arms than the Chiefs typically want and that you see in the NFL at starter caliber, shorter than 34-inch arms. But his hand usage is spectacular. And when you can use your hands in a way that not only keeps defensive ends at bay, but you can swipe, you can counter, you can do everything you need to do to make their hand games less effective and get into your chest. That's the biggest thing for pass protection going into the next level. He's not the most physically imposing tackle either. I do have some questions about his run game. He definitely probably fits more of his own scheme in terms of being able to move guys at the next level. I know there's questions from going into the NFL if he's going to play left tackle or if he's going to be a right tackle. He can definitely play both. And I think that the quote from his coach is kind of looking in the past about how tackle play used to be. You don't necessarily have to be the most athletic guy to play left tackle anymore when you have the natural gifts with his hands that you do, when you understand the game so well that like he does. His football IQ is off the charts, and the way that you can see that in the way he uses his hands, readjusts them, relocates them on defensive ends. And he does have good footwork. I mean, like I said, he's not the best athlete, so I think that his upside in the NFL is limited, but you're going to get a guy that can come in and play. He's going to be a starting tackle in the NFL. So I don't have many questions about him being a starter. I think you're going to see some teams take whoever ends up with Liam Eichenberg could play him at right tackle. And I don't think that's an issue. I think that he can do that very well. It's all about the hand usage for me. And he's going to get better with that in the NFL too. So you get him in the right group. I think that that's going to be, it's going to do wonders for him. I think that he's going to be able to come in and be a very productive starter in year one. That's not something you can say about a lot of tackles. So I liked him for the Chiefs at 31. I do think he'll go a little bit before that. Maybe the Steelers have they do have a need on their offensive line as it was getting older. So I would look at the Steelers. I'm not sure the Chiefs want to take a guy with shorter arms. We're going to kind of get to that a little bit later, but with my own personal opinion that has been forming as of late. But I do think he's a plug and play left tackle in the NFL, can play right as well. He was my number 5. And here's my number 6. This is where I start to differ from the top people among draft Twitter and everything that I've seen. Brady Christensen, excuse me, I fully believe that not only is he one of the most athletic tackles in this class, but he's going to be able to come in. Yes, he's zone specific, which does limit him a little bit. But I think his upside, he has tremendous upside because of the way that he can move his legs. He has great hip fluidity and recovery balance, which is something you need to see in tackles. 90% of their job is recovery based, especially in pass protection. So the way he can keep his feet under him, he doesn't get over his feet too much, which is really good for the balance aspect as well. He can relocate his hands well. He's still learning a bit more with that. The counters competition level is a little bit of a thing for me. I'm not entirely sure if that competition level that he played against at BYU was going to translate to the NFL. But that's a process you're going to learn. These guys are going to come in. They're going to get in off season under their coaching staff, get in the weight room a little bit and kind of feel like what it's like to play against some of these defensive ends like on their own team. They're going to go up against them and practice things like that. So the athletic side of him is what makes his upside for me so high and why I like him so much. He's so fluid and inside, outside, he can counter. He can counter the defensive ends counter, so we can go outside and come back inside. And he doesn't necessarily always bite on those outside moves, and he can keep himself going inside as well to counter that. So he would be a perfect scheme fit for the Chiefs. I think it's a bit rich at 31, and you add in some of he's a bit lighter in terms of weight. I believe he was 300 and 306 pounds, something like that, a little bit lighter, and shorter arms as well. So it's kind of like Elijah Vera Tucker, for example. He's got 32.5-inch arms, and he's probably going to be slotted as a guard in the NFL because he doesn't have even 33-inch arms. But Brady Christensen has about 33-inch arms, and he's, like I said, he's an uber athlete. So I think that you can counter some of the shortcomings you have with the shorter arms with the ability and the footwork to keep under him. So I have him much higher just because I see a way that he can be, a very good pass protection starting tackle in the NFL. He also obviously has the versatility to go inside if they need to with his contact strength, something that you should monitor as well. But I really like him. I think he's going to be great at the next level, and that's why I got him at number 6. And behind him, excuse me, is Samuel Cosby, who's slotted as a first round draft pick going into the draft in 2021. So played at Texas, obviously, as you can see from this photo, very big guy. He's athletic as well. I have some questions about his hip fluidity. I think that from what I've seen, a lot of the defensive ends that have speed to power can take him and bend him backward a little bit and use his inflexible hips to turn him in an unfriendly way and really get around him and underneath him that way. I think that's why you're going to see the next level. He has a little bit of adjustment period, and defensive ends are going to be able to bend around him. So the contact strength sometimes in pass protection is a concern as well. He wasn't as strong as I anticipated for someone his size. That's something he can improve upon, but he's a very gifted mover for a guy his size. He has inconsistent hand location, but when he gets his hands in the right location on your chest, it's pretty much a good night. He's going to get you out of the way and do what he needs to do. So I think that I'm a little lower on him than consensus. That's just because I have some real questions about his hips, and if you can work that out, I think that he's got really good upside as a starting left tackle in the NFL. I'm not sure you can work it out at this point because the hip memory and the hip muscles and everything takes a long time to get through, and I'm worried that either he's gonna get hurt doing it, one, or he's just not going to be able to get to that point. And that's just my own concern. So something that I just noticed when I was watching his tape. And again, you can always work some of these things out. The upside for these guys is different, and everyone's going to have a different path. So if he can get that worked out, I think he's got very good upside. But still, we're talking about a deep top end of the draft class into the tackle position. So still, he's going to probably go in the first round, if not very early second round. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Chiefs take him at 31. I think that that's a sweet spot for really where he's projected to go and where I have him myself. I wouldn't take him until mid-second. I do because of my concerns that much, but I could see the Chiefs wanting to. I believe that he's got a little shorter arms as well in terms of what the Chiefs like, but we're going to see what they really value, because like I said, I've been mentioning this entire time, athletes might outweigh some of the shortcomings with the arms. So that's why he's my 7, just because of the things with the hips and some of the contact strength issues. Now, I am much higher on Spencer Brown than a lot of people, and I'm going to tell you why. Yeah, he's a right tackle, so he would have a transition process for the Chiefs. If they took him, they have Lucas Niang. Unless they're going to have him play left tackle, I don't see that happening. I think that they're going to draft somebody to play left tackle. And Spencer Brown is one of the most athletic tackles in this draft class. I said that Brady Christensen was an uber athlete. This guy is probably a better athlete given his size. 6'8", a little underweight too, 306-ish, 305 area, long arms, over 34-inch arms. And he's got some just raw power and understanding of leverage, which I really thought stood out when I watched him on tape. There was a play that I posted on Twitter where he just snatches a defensive end when he realizes he's getting around him inside. He just snatches him because he's busy looking at the inside first. When he got into his pass set, he steps towards the left first since it's the right tackle, so he's giving way to the outside, and he realizes the defensive end is going to come in. He just takes him by the chest and snatches him to the ground with ease with one arm. So that's the kind of thing that you can only really do when you have a really good understanding of the leverage that the defensive end's playing with. He was a little forward heavy, so he was able to snatch him down to the ground, which is really nice to see. His footwork is really, really good for a guy his size too. He can get in and out of his pass sets with ease. He can get to the next level. He's a little clunky getting to the next level with the run blocking, some zone specific types. I think you could play him in a power game. Works good on his doubles, has very long arms, like I mentioned. He's able to get those to the next level as well. And like I said, the pass sets are really what sold me on him in terms of playing left tackle. I think that he can not only do it, but do it at a very high level with his athleticism and his natural footwork prowess. It's something that is still a bit raw, but he absolutely dominated his competition at the FCS level, which is something that I look for, and I think that is pretty common to look for in these guys that are projected to be top day one, day two prospects out of the FCS level. You really need to dominate your competition, and I thought that he did that. at an elite level. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see him in 2020, but he showed well at the Senior Bowl. That's really what we have to base this off of. And it's the same with the next guy. So I do believe that the Chiefs would be able to take him around 63 and convert him to play left tackle. And that's what I would do myself. I think that he's ideal for what they're looking for going forward. He has that length and the size and the athleticism. So I'm much higher on him, and he's one of my favorite tackle prospects in this draft. And after him is number 9 on this tackle sheet, and that is Dylan Rayden out of University of North Dakota, North Dakota State University. I like him. This is not a knock on him. I still think he's a very good tackle prospect, but I think that what I saw in his tape from 2019 was a guy who struggled with contact and strength at his current level, which is not something you want to see projected into the NFL. It's not only going to go from FCS to FBS. We're talking about FCS to the NFL. So the contact strength was an issue for me. We only got one game from 2020. They had the one game to really kind of showcase Trey Lance. And I did see some marked improvement in the run game in his strength and his able to get out of a out of his stance into a defensive end and kind of move him. Again, that was more of a competition level thing, which Spencer Brown, Brady Christensen, and Dylan Rayden all have questions in terms of their competition level. So that's something that I've been monitoring itself. He has very good footwork. Again, very good athlete. Going to play left tackle at the NFL level for quite a while, assuming he gets everything figured out. But he's got the athletic profile to really do it. Shorter arms again, so 33-ish inch arms. But again, he works his hands very well. He's able to relocate well. He can keep a defensive end inside, outside. He's got the footwork to move with him that way. I do think some speed to the outside and bend gives him some trouble. Again, I didn't get to see much of that going into the next level, but in 2020, but he showed well at the Senior Bowl. And I think that's important because both Spencer Brown and Dylan Rayden are going to be day 2 picks, in my opinion. I think that I've got Spencer Brown a little bit over Dylan Rayden. I think that Rayden is probably good at 63. I have Spencer Brown rated a little bit higher. I think he's going to fall further than that, but I have him pegged at the end of the second round and beginning of the third, just because I have some questions again about contact strength and some speed around the edge and bend at the next level, which I'm not going to get answered until he's in the NFL. So he's my number 9 tackle in this class. And number 10 is going to be a surprise to some people. I can admit that. Stone Forsythe not only has one of the greatest tackle names ever, Stone Forsythe, that's just intimidating in and of itself. And it was one of the things that really not just turned me onto his tape, but I saw it going around Twitter, and he was already on my sheet anyway. I just had to get down there, and I think he was projected as about 4th or 5th round pick to start. But this guy again at 6'8", and another a little bit underweight guy, around the 310-ish pounds. Again, long arms, over 34-inch arms. His pass sets are so fluid for a guy his size. The same we talked about Spencer Brown. They are so dynamic with their footwork, getting it deep into their pass sets before the defensive end can get there. One of the things that I loved about his tape is I watched him dominate Azeez Ojulari, who's going to be a top 20 player. I think he's a top 20 player in this draft, especially at the defensive end position. He's one of the best defensive ends in this class. And he dominated him. He didn't let him do anything. It was once he gets his hands on your chest and you try to move around him, it's over. You can't get around this guy. He's so big. He's got such vice grips for hands, and he does everything so smoothly and so fluidly that it's like easy for him. So getting him into a pass first offense like the Chiefs would be ideal, in my opinion. I think that he's definitely suited to play that. And we do have some issues with his run blocking, a little bit underweight, so he doesn't have that same contact strength and you want from a guy. Does have a finishing mentality though. Getting to the next level is a little clunky too. Still, he's a big guy trying to move up field is never easy, but the lateral agility from outside to inside speed rush counters is still giving him a little bit of trouble. But in the next level, that's what you're going to try to really work on. And he does have the athletic profile to really get better at that. And he's got the long arm to keep, use his length to keep defensive ends going around a little bit longer, which definitely helps out in terms of The reason that it's been like that for so long is just because it keeps them at length. You want to keep them as far away from you as possible so they can't get inside your chest, move you one way, move the other way. So I think that he can handle power well and transition his recovery balance to his back feet and use that little jump step again well. So I have him at 10 because I think that he's going to be able to come in and be an impact starter at some point. I'm not entirely sure that he's going to be a year one impact player, but I do think he has a projection to take him in the second round. I think the Chiefs will take him in the second round or the third round, and they're going to be able to do great things with him. They're going to bring in a veteran left tackle to play start at week 1, probably play most of the season, and then ease them into it at the end, maybe a little bit. See, depending on how the veteran's playing. So I'm very high on Stone Forsythe. I think he's going to be very good in the NFL, and maybe I'm a little bit too high, but I don't really care so much. This is my top 10 list. He's number 10. Honorable mention is Jackson Carman out of Clemson. You guys should watch some of his tape. He's an extremely physical left tackle. He does have some athletic limitations, but I think we're going to see him be competent at the next level. I'm looking forward to his own personal pro day later this month to really see how he's doing. He had some medical issues with the first one, so we got to check up on him later this next week, I think, actually. So an honorable mention for me at number 11, 12-ish time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. You guys have any questions, let me know why this player was here, why that player was there, just anything you guys want. I love talking offensive line play. Like, this was so much fun for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed it and you have a great night.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.